Hey, hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Matt Green. I'm an assistant director of admissions at the University of Notre Dame and finishing up my third year in the admissions office. We have now begun our Faith at Notre Dame panel, and I am very, very pleased to have some of our campus partners who work a lot with campus ministry here. And what I'm actually going to do is let them take the reins on this. They're the true experts in this field, especially our current students, some of our best resources that we have here. So I'm actually going to turn it over to them for them to continue this fantastic conversation. Father Peter, if anybody wants to start, please take it away.
Great. Thanks, Matt. My name is Father Pete McCormick. It's so great to be with you all tonight. I serve as what's called the Director of Campus Ministry here at Notre Dame. My job really is to think about faith on campus. We certainly don't do that alone. And of course, we think a lot about how can each student grow in their faith, no matter what their background is. And so we've got a series of different folks who are here, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Brian, maybe you can start, and then we'll kind of work our way through Whitney and Shawn.
Alrighty. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Brian McGee. I'm a junior at the University of Notre Dame studying electrical engineering. Some of the faithy stuff I do on campus or things I'm involved with. I live in Stanford Hall, and each dorm has its own sacristy and it has their own masses. And so I help those masses happen, as well as kind of help lead some retreats in the dorm, as well as I work in campus ministry as an anchor intern. Should I talk about anchor internship now or a little bit? Or
I'd say, yeah. What's an anchor intern?
I'd say, so an anchor intern is a cool opportunity from campus ministry where we get to work as actual ministers within different spheres of influence of campus ministry. So I work specifically in liturgy, which is a lot of kind of prayer service and mass-oriented kind of communal events that we have here on campus.
That's great, Brian. Thank you. Thank you. Whitney.
Yeah, hi. I'm Whitney Lim. I'm a current senior at Notre Dame. I'm a theology major, and I also have two minors, sustainability and business economics. Faith-related things that I'm involved in on campus mostly is through Iron Sharpens Iron, which is an interdenominational Christian fellowship that is student-run. And so I've been a student leader on that leadership for about 2 years now. I've also been a part of a bunch of retreats and small groups, some stuff through the dorm, and I've done spiritual direction for about 2 years also through campus ministry.
Thanks, Whitney. Question for you. What's spiritual direction? I'm sitting at home wondering like, hey, what is that?
Yeah, so spiritual direction is kind of a place where I get to go and I get to pray with a campus minister. And this person listens to me and where I'm at with my journey with God, what I feel like I've been listening to and hearing from God, and my prayer life, and different relationships or ways I'm engaging with my faith. And kind of the spiritual director tries to reflect back to me what she thinks God might be speaking to me or where he might be leading me and guiding me. So I do that about monthly.
Okay, thanks so much. Well, we'll come back then a little bit. Shawn, you're up, man.
Hey, my name is Shawn. I'm a senior. I study finance with a minor in theology. And like Whitney, I'm also very involved with Iron Sharpens Iron as someone who is a non-Catholic Christian. And I also work for campus ministry as an anchor intern like Brian. And my role is to work with retreats and pilgrimages. So we host several retreats throughout the year for different classes and groups of people. And we also go on pilgrimages, sometimes partnering with the Center for Social Concerns through over winter break or spring break or fall break, times like those to kind of explore our faith deeper in a different place. And a lot of times also connected with justice and faith. Yeah.
Shawn, maybe to put a little flesh on the bones of those pilgrimages, talk to folks a little bit about El Salvador, your experience this past spring break.
Yeah, so this past spring break, we were on a pilgrimage to El Salvador, and we it was a really meaningful um, immersion for me. It was part of a theology class, but also with the pilgrimage immersion. So we partner with the theology department here at Notre Dame, and it was really a really amazing chance to see faith lived out, and to encounter people um, who are embodiments of such radical spirituality. And specifically in El Salvador, it's the place where Saint Oscar Romero is from, and so he really lives out what it means to stand up for the poor, even when the government or the military is threatening you with death. And we met a lot of people in the mountains and in the rural villages of El Salvador that really experienced massacres and are survivors of really deep depths of pain. But we were able to, we had the privilege of meeting with them and kind of learning from them what it means to be without their faith and spirituality. So that was just one of the pilgrimages that we hosted most recently.
It's awesome, man. Thanks, Shawn. Okay, so here comes the challenge. I want you all to not think about your current role, junior, senior, senior. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a senior in high school, your senior self in high school. Congratulations, you've been accepted to Notre Dame. You're going to be leaving home soon. What were your perceptions of Notre Dame then when it came to faith? And furthermore, what have you now found to be true after, for some of you, you're getting ready to wrap up your time here. And for another, it's debatable whether or not Brian's going to make it through, but we're just going to believe that he might have a shot. So whoever wants to get started can. What were your perceptions back senior year in high school? What have you found to be true now that you're here?
Yeah, so I grew up going to public school my whole life. Didn't know what it was going to be like going to a religiously affiliated institution. When I visited Notre Dame, I had already been accepted. So I was kind of like, this is it or not. And it was pretty evident to me that like faith was important to people and to the campus culture in general. I was definitely a little bit like, I'm not Catholic. I don't know anything about Catholicism. I've never been to Mass. And so I was definitely a little hesitant, but I thought that even though I wasn't part of the majority like Catholic identity, I thought it very much helped the community have like a common place and a good outlook on like the greater good or the common good. That kind of seeped into everything from academics to just like friendships to things you would do on the weekends and like going to Mass together and stuff. I thought that was really cool, hearing like people talk about that. So I was definitely curious and open to learning more about Catholicism and definitely my own faith and how it kind of fit in with that. So I think throughout these 4 years, I've very much seen how universal Catholicism really can be, and kind of like that play on Catholic with the lowercase c is supposed to be like universal. So I think like that has been pretty cool. Like I've gotten to engage with it as much as I wanted to, or places where I felt comfortable. And it definitely took me some time, but it's been a really wonderful experience. And it is kind of sad to hear about friends who have never really felt like they fit in or whatever, but there are definitely opportunities through like Jewish Students Association or like Muslim Students Association and things like that, that I think other people have found good outlets to connect with their own faith.
That's great. Maybe to follow up on that, Whitney, if you'd let me, my question for you is, you come in, you're a person who gets involved in Iron Sharpens Iron, which is a beautiful ministry. And I think we should spend a little time talking about that at some point. But how did being at a Catholic institution, while not Catholic yourself, allow for you to grow in your own faith? You talked about, you're studying theology here, and you're actively engaged in Iron Sharpens Iron, affectionately known as ISI from this point forward. So those of you who are keeping track at home, I'm done saying Iron Sharpens Iron. ISI, learn the acronym. Here we go. Okay, so the question is, like, being kind of in a Catholic place, not being Catholic yourself, how did you find the space to kind of grow in your own faith, in your own tradition?
Yeah, definitely. I think I first look for some commonalities. I think a lot of times people try to find those like differences or divisions, or they might be like easier to see at first. And so I like challenge myself to see like, okay, like where can I still enter in, or what prayers are the same, or what kind of language, how do my Catholic friends still relate? Oh, they still do devotionals, like that's cool. Or, oh, they still talk about like the Lord's Prayer, like, oh, that's kind of, you know, similar. So I think I tried to find those commonalities, and then I just tried to learn a little bit more about what they believed and how they engaged with their faith. And a lot of times, like even then, I would be like, oh, there are definitely more similarities than differences. And then some of the places where I didn't as much agree, or I still didn't feel like I understood like why they believed what they did, or they did what they did, then that helped me reflect more on what I believed and
Yeah.
what I felt to be true, and then I was kind of like further convicted. So I think it was a really good process, and like never ends. So I'm still learning a lot from like friends and professors and things like that.
Right on. Right on. All right, maybe Shawn, jump to you and then go to Brian.
Yeah, if I
Senior
could,
Shawn, back in the day, 2016. Talk to me about that guy.
yeah, if I could hop on to what Whitney was saying, I think I shared similar ideas, but probably at a more perhaps at a more radical level, of in the sense that I was very against Catholicism when I first came in. I came in with so many misconceptions, and from various Protestant church backgrounds that I've come from, and so I had many misconceptions about what Catholics believed, and what different things that Catholicism stood for. And I think the two biggest things that um, I did, and that I would advise incoming freshmen to do, would be to, one, keep an open mind of curiosity and of learning, and two, to not discount the power of friendships, because the personal encounter of someone across from you, or the friendship that you make, is just such a life changer, and it really changes your perspective. I remember actually coming in with the question of like, do Catholics even go to heaven? And that was a really
Sure. Like I haven't met anyone yet, but I have a good instinct that they do.
I've done a lot probably. But I was like, do they even know, like, do they even have personal relationships with Jesus, blah blah blah. And I remember my freshman year was a series of asking people questions, so many questions about their faith. Some people know more about, have thought more about it, and some people haven't thought as much. But I think at one point I just sat back and looked at all the friendships with people who had a deep conviction in their Catholic faith, and I was like, this personal encounter and this friendship really changes my perspective that I had before in my mind. And even though working with people like Brian here can be a little bit tiresome, I'm kidding, Brian. But I would truly emphasize the difference and impact that friendships make. And so for my own faith, I work with campus ministry, and I have a theology minor too. I'm not Catholic, but I have a lot of aspects of my growth, personally, spiritually, has been from different aspects of Catholicism. And I'm deeply grateful, looking back now as a senior, for that. Two specific examples I'd just briefly touch on. One, I came into the Mendoza School of Business for this mission, this Catholic mission of using business as a force for good in the world, and I think that's something that's really important to me, and it's really beautiful how that has the potential, and when you see that being played out. And then the second other thing is also really important to me, is the this part of Catholicism called Catholic social teaching, and it's it's become an integral part of my faith myself, and just seeing how much emphasis um, on Jesus's command to go and serve the poor and encounter and through campus ministry, through the Center for Social Concerns, that's been a huge part of my experience at Notre Dame and also my faith.
Shawn, I so appreciate, maybe to build on what you said, can you just take a moment and talk a little bit about faith in action, right? So you talked about El Salvador, you talked about Oscar Romero, you just talked about Catholic social teaching, that there's an aspect of the reason that we spend this time thinking theologically is not just so that we can kind of have our own selves put together, but in fact, it's a guide for our own actions. And so could you talk a little bit about what that's been like for you now practically? Here you are preparing to graduate, thinking about how does your faith now inform what you prioritize and what you think about? Just wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I guess for me, I think about my faith journey, especially here at Notre Dame, as a series of and whether you're, as a first year student, whether you're no matter how far you are in your faith journey, or even if you don't have one at all, I think for me, my journey has been one of constantly asking myself, how big is my God, and if I'm a human and my vision is limited by my human capability to understand. My experience has been a series of having these moments, experiences that happen, and then asking myself the question: Does my notion of God, is it able to hold all of this? And if not, I've encountered moments where I've either been like, okay, my understanding of God needs to expand and be bigger, or this is a God that is too small and I'm going to peace out. And so, in what you're saying, Father Pete, with faith in action, I think through the Center for Social Concerns, I did a thing called Summer Service Learning Program, an SSLP, and for that summer I worked with adults with disabilities. And I think, going back to the thing with friendship, faith isn't about just being in the mind. It's a journey from the head to the heart, and it's a thing that is lived out. And if it can't be lived out and explained, and be within the context of your everyday life, your everyday struggles, then that's not a God that I want to be living my life for. And so the reason that I've been able to, I think, put such an emphasis on my faith and have it be so important to me is because of these interactions of encountering people, and encountering the image of God within people that have different backgrounds, people that are suffering far worse circumstances than me. It kind of challenges us to a faith that that it needs to be lived out. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love what you're saying, right? Faith isn't just a book you put on a shelf. It's actually something that gets read, gets engaged, gets applied, and it constantly is widening to the ever kind of encompassing reality of the presence of God. Mr. McGee, I'm going to kick it over to you here. All right, so those of you who are watching at home, Brian and I live in the same hall, Stanford Hall. I am broadcasting from what is Brian McGee's home for the better part of the year when he's here on campus. So he and I have a familiarity with one another. And so I have known him since his freshman year, and it's so great to be with him here and to see the growth of this young man up until his junior year. So Brian, talk to these folks a little bit about kind of dorm mass. Give them a little bit of a kind of an insight into what are these dorm masses all about?
Yeah, dorm masses are probably one of the I don't know, most enthusiastic masses that you'll go to, one of the most inviting masses that you'll go to. Like Father Pete said, I do live at Stanford Hall. I've known him since I was a freshman, and I got involved with dorm mass at the end of my freshman year, just because people were inviting. Dorm mass, usually every mass will have every dorm will have a Sunday mass. So that's kind of a bigger mass, and everyone in the dorm will go there. And then there's weekly masses as well. And with weekly masses, they try to get a little fun with it and do like kind of a food mass or something like that. The most popular one by far is Milkshake Mass, put on by Dylan Hall. But besides all the spectacle, the food and all that, I'd say it's just a really unique experience. I'll talk about a little bit about my own parish life here in California. Like I'd say the average age of the person in my parish is like 65 or so. I mean, I don't really have a lot to relate about with those people. And there's just no other opportunity for you to be at a mass with so many people that are your age, for one thing, and are so enthusiastic about sharing their faith. And that's, I'd say, one of the most beautiful things is dorm masses does a great job of balancing those people who are very involved in their faith and very enthusiastic about it, with people who kind of maybe are never been to a mass before or haven't been to a mass in a couple of years. It's very much, there's really no prestige with it. It's not like, oh, I'm a Catholic and so I know mass and stuff like that, and I get to go to mass, I'm all cool. No, it's very inviting. It's a lot of fun, and it's got opportunities for everyone, really. Dorm music, or the musicians are all students for the most part, and it's really awesome. People come out of the woodwork and they can play this and they can play that. You got some people are having drums at their masses. Some people have electric guitar. You have your classic piano people who really just rock it. But yeah, I'd say dorm mass, yeah, inviting, enthusiastic, a great community, and just one of the many great communities to become a part of at Notre Dame.
What time of day are those masses, Brian? Are they early in the morning?
Oh, you know it. No. There's only one 8 a.m. mass on campus, and I don't know many people that go to that, but most dorm masses are at night. Weekday masses, for the most part, are at 10 p.m. in most every dorm. Stanford Hall has the latest Sunday mass at 10:30 p.m. So if you're out and looking for a mass at 10:30 p.m. on a Sunday night, just come visit us. Father Pete's usually saying mass. I usually set up for him. I don't mess it up too bad, so we usually kind of get through it by the end of it. But yeah.
Ryan, maybe to build off of this, are masses required? So if I come to Notre Dame, do I have to go to mass? Is that part of the expectation?
No, not at all. I know some colleges do that where you have to go to mass once a month or something like that, but Notre Dame does not by any means force the Catholic faith onto you. I'd say Notre Dame does a great job of emulating kind of the how Catholicism should be shared by inviting people to experience Christ. So we don't ever force anyone to go to mass. I do invite people to mass. I can be obnoxious like that, but no, never forced.
Can you, and then I want to move off this particular topic, but I have one more thing, because you and your fellow sacristan, Robbie, shout out to Robbie, do something on Monday. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the food variety that is provided at 10 p.m. On Monday nights.
Yeah, so 10 p.m. Monday nights is Stanford Snow Cone Mass. Again, if you find yourself in South Bend on a Monday looking for a snow cone, just wait till 10 p.m. We got you. But no, it's a great, I'd say, mass is so great at bringing people in, and then everyone afterwards can kind of hang out and get a snow cone at Snow Cone Mass. Or I know there's Dunkin' Donut Mass. It's Dunkin' Hall, not the company Dunkin' Donuts. Like I said, Dylan Milkshake Mass. All these food masses all come together as kind of fun ways just to bring people together. We have our mass, and then afterwards we have a good kind of community just to hang out, have some snow cones. That's the best one I hear anyway. But yeah,
this is a public disclaimer. If anyone gets assigned to Stanford Hall next year and you come to Snow Cone Mass, there's a particular flavor you want to avoid. It's the banana flavor. And Brian's going to try to hawk it on you. He's going to try to convince you to think that banana snow cone flavor is good. It's not. Here to tell you that. I just want you all to know. And if you try it, you don't like it, don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, moving right along. Now, obviously, it's more than just kind of hanging out at Mass. We've been talking about all types of things, pilgrimages, ISI, Could you guys share with the group, like, what are your favorite religious traditions, customs while at Notre Dame? The things that you look forward to, the things that have been impactful for you. There's no canned answer here. It's more just like, hey, of the things that are offered at Notre Dame, are there, maybe it's a trip to the grotto, maybe it's a retreat that you've gone on, whatever the case might be. And once you have that thing, share a little bit about it so that people can kind of get a taste and feel of what that looks like.
I think you mentioned it, the trip to the grotto. I think that is a very special place on campus that can attend to a lot of different needs. I have a friend who goes there every single day, like no matter what the weather, no matter how busy she is, she goes and she prays and she lights a candle. And that is like part of her faith and her rituals that she does. For other people, it's like where they get proposed to. Like I've had friends who their fiance or future fiance proposed to them there. So it's like a very special place, whether you go there every day or if it's just for like special events. A lot of times people will go there like before football games to bring like their family or like alums or whatever. I like to go there. I'm also a tour guide, and so I love to bring new families, prospective students to that place to showcase kind of just how open your faith can be. Like you can be outside and you can be like in nature and you can just kind of like passing by on your way to class type of thing, just stop in for a meditative moment or a quick prayer. And also like sometimes you go there when you need to run for help. I've definitely gone there in like times of desperation or just like not knowing where else to go. So I think that's awesome that it's like always open, and since there's always candles, it's a very inviting, like welcoming lit place that you can really just find comfort and try to find God. So I think the grotto is definitely a very beautiful spot on campus. And then another thing, I don't want to step on Shawn's toes, but I think retreats are another thing that is really special. I'd say every weekend almost, besides like home football games, there are multiple retreats going on, whether it's through the dorm or through some organization or through some like outside program. There's always kind of like, let's take a step back and kind of get back to what really matters and what we value and what we believe. So there's some that happen like right off of campus. I mean, some that happen on campus too, and then some where you like drive 40 minutes or whatever. And so it's nice to get off of campus and build those relationships, kind of that Shawn was saying, creating those deeper friendships and just being able to talk about faith and worship together. So I've been able to lead a retreat or two, and it's always been like awesome to have that student perspective too. What Brian was saying about that community at Mass is also true at retreats and in other places. So,
Whitney, maybe to follow up on that, talk to me a little bit about who's on these retreats. These are fellow students, typically led by students, right?
Yes. So that's right. Sometimes, yeah, there's, an advisor type of chaperone type thing, but mostly they're led by students, for students. And yeah, I'd never led a retreat before I started leading retreats at Notre Dame. So I think that's another cool point where it should be a very open, accessible thing. Definitely it's a challenge, and you want to take it seriously, but yeah, like I led a retreat and I'd never done that before. So it was a very good experience to be able to minister to my peers in that way, and to be able to give back to the community in that way too.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Just to jump in here real quick. There's also, in terms of the retreats, there's also multicultural retreats. So these are typically a little bit less. Actually, I can't speak to many of them. I've only been on the Asian American one. But the Asian American retreat is less spiritual, but it's there's different cultural retreats too that freshmen have the opportunity to go on that really form community within the context of that community.
Shawn, could you say a little bit more about those, and maybe just your experience on AAA Asian American retreat? Like what time of year did that happen? And how did it help you?
Yeah, so these typically happen within the first few weeks of school. Campus ministry offers like a first year retreat that's more focused on spirituality, but the different cultural groups like the Latino Students Association, the Black Students Association, Asian American Association, they all offer cultural retreats within the first few weeks, and anyone can go on them. And yeah, they're a great opportunity, also led by students, to get to know other freshmen, and yeah, typically students give talks, share a little story about what they've been going through, and then there's small groups, table groups that you get pretty close with, and that was a helpful community for me to get come into Notre Dame with.
Great. Is there anything else you want to highlight, or that's a really good one?
I'd also say, after you, Shawn, go ahead.
We'll go, Brian.
Alrighty. I'd also say there's a group actually just for first years called Compass that brings together just a lot of different people, and it's based around faith and faith talking and everything like that, not explicitly Catholic or anything, but it's a great way for, as a first year coming and not really knowing a lot of people, to find other people that are kind of looking for the same things that you are, as well as walking with people in their faith. I feel like that's a great thing that we do at Notre Dame in so many different capacities, is walk with people in their faith. And going into Compass, it's a group of probably 5 to 7 first years, led by 2 sophomores, and there's like over 100 groups that they get to sign up. And it's just, it's like you kind of coming into college, not really knowing where you're at, and finding this kind of anchor right immediately. So that's helpful for a lot of people. So I thought I should mention that.
Awesome. Okay, we're moving into the final segment of our time together here, and I've titled this segment "Dropping Some Wisdom." So you've got the chance. You might be thinking to yourself, Father Pete, how come you never brought up X or Y, or geez Louise, this thing is so obvious, and you totally missed leading and facilitating a conversation on faith. How dare you? So this is when you all get the chance to drop some wisdom and say, this is what my hope for you would be. This is another thing you should be thinking about, or you should come to Notre Dame. I don't know why you're discerning anything else. So you can say what you want to say. But who wants to get started in our final segment, drop in some wisdom?
I could go.
All right.
I'd say the biggest thing that's just most unique about Notre Dame, and we've talked about this pretty much the whole time, is just the communities that you find here. You come in and you're in this dorm, all single-sex dorms and everything. So there's no like Greek life on campus, but you're pretty much in a well-regulated frat, pretty much. But it's a fun time to come into welcome weekend and meet a bunch of different people, and really find this community right away. And from there, you have this kind of community already to fall back on and to go forward into, like, I'm in engineering, but I also do a lot of work with campus ministry. And even sports and stuff like that, all the different sports clubs and stuff you can join, is there's so many different avenues for community. And Notre Dame does such a great job of bringing in well-rounded people, where you meet a lot of great people who everyone's very much, I'd say, accepting of a lot of different ways of life and accepting of a lot of different things in general. But I'd say the community at Notre Dame. And then the second thing I would say is that Notre Dame is a Catholic institution, but college, or my brother told me this before coming into college, is that college is as religious as you want it to be. And so if you're coming into it and you're thinking, I don't necessarily know if I want to get into this, like it's a Catholic institution, I'm not Catholic, I don't even know. You'll find your path, you'll find your invitation, you'll be able to say yes or no, but it's really your opportunity. And Notre Dame has so many opportunities to support you in your faith, whether you're Jewish, Islamic, Catholic, Christian. There's so many different paths for you to embrace your faith and to become more fully who you're supposed to be.
Great, Brian. Thank you, man. Who's next in the Dropping Some Wisdom segment?
I can go next. I think for me, one of the things I've been most grateful for, like Brian said, at Notre Dame has been the community, and especially this community of just some of the most amazing and passionate people and caring and loving that I've met in my life. I found at Notre Dame, and I think a little bit of advice that I would share is to be okay if that doesn't happen right away. Welcome weekend is going to be fun, and there's going to be amazing people in your dorms, but personally I struggled a lot the first semester finding these communities and making these friends, and it was really, really hard. But I think the thing that one of my upperclassmen friends told me was to kind of step outside my comfort zone and go out and interact with people that you don't know or don't share that many things in common with. And this was a big one, to not be afraid to, if someone is cool, just be like, hey, you want to get dinner? Like, don't be afraid of doing that. And I wish I knew sooner, like, that I could just go ask literally anyone. Like, they could be a senior or a junior, but you could just go ask them. Like, everyone is so nice. Like, you could just be like, hey, I would like to get to know you more. Let's go to North Dining Hall or South Dining Hall and grab a meal. And that's a totally normal and common thing. And to be patient with finding community, and to have the courage to step outside of what you're comfortable with.
Thank you, Shawn.
Yeah.
Whitney, you're up.
Yeah, sure. To build off of, I guess, a little bit what Shawn was saying and Brian was saying too, I would say, yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help, or just to, ask for a relationship. And that doesn't just go with friends and like peers. Obviously, that is 100% important. But I think even the faculty and staff and the campus ministers and professors, they have a lot of wisdom, and they genuinely care about their students, or your rector, like, they definitely care about you. And so just being friendly and like being able to ask for help if you need it, or just, how's your day going, whatever. And for me, like, that is like my spiritual director or my rector or whatever. But it definitely does take time, and just being open to those relationships and knowing that you can fall back on those people or ask them for help is a great, great comfort for me, even now as a senior. And I think ultimately that hopefully we can learn to ask God for help too, that whatever we're going through, if it's like, okay, we need to go find a chapel ASAP, or, oh, like, okay, I need to swing by the grotto, or I just need to get back to my dorm room. But whatever that is, like, wherever it is, hopefully we can find God throughout our college experience, and know that he is always there, and that these relationships that we build, whether it's with peers or student leaders or actual like adults, that we can find God through those relationships.
Whitney, thank you. And I maybe just as a word of closing before I thank each of you is just to say, Notre Dame is a Catholic institution, and we're proud of that. But that Catholicism should not eliminate others from participating. The very nature of us being Catholic means that we are welcoming, and that we desire to see the inherent dignity of every single human being. And so it's our desire that every person comes here and they flourish in their faith, and they flourish as a human being, and they flourish as an intellectual. That's our greatest desire. This old school saint, a guy by the name of Saint Irenaeus, once said, the glory of a God is a human being fully alive. And that's really what we're trying to do. And so our greatest desire is that when you come to Notre Dame, if you come to Notre Dame, that you bring your fullest self, everything you've got, all your questions, all your answers, and somewhere in between, and you share that. And that's really where I think we see the models of Shawn, of Brian, of Whitney, of people who have demonstrated that. They have brought the fullest version of themselves, and I think have benefited so much as a result of it. So at this point, I'm going to say thank you to our presenters. Yes, I've learned how to use emojis. I feel so high tech right now. And at this point, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. God bless, and we'll talk at some point in the future.
A big thank you to everybody, to Father Pete, to Whitney, to Shawn, and to Brian. Your insight, participation here is, we're so grateful for it, and hope you all enjoyed getting to know a little bit about faith life at Notre Dame. Thanks again, everybody. We appreciate it, and we'll see you in the fall.